Okay, Dane, what was
Katie.
it like growing up as a queer kid in Truro?
Did you just out me to your audience?
I think you've outed yourself on the internet numerous times at this point.
The lilt of my voice outed me within the first 20 seconds.
My hometown messed me up. She won big on a Timmy's cup. I heard about it at the Rotary Club. That's so Canardian. Still don't stop.
This is Canardian, the podcast gossiping about Canadian hometowns. I'm Katie Lohr, author of Pod the North, the newsletter for Canadian podcasters. And I'm joined by Dane Stewart, playwright and creator of Resurrection, one of my favorite podcasts of 2024. And it's a podcast that shares the profound and important history of North America's AIDS crisis through like a really wonderful lens that Dane has that is just like pure theater. It's wonderful. It's great. It's very, very engaging. Dane, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Katie. I'm so excited to be a guest on Canardian. It's tickling my heart.
I am so excited for you to be a guest on Canardian. It's going to be really fun. Here's the first question for you. Dane, where is your hometown and how would you describe the vibe of it in 5 words or less?
My hometown is the town of Truro in Nova Scotia. So, and I'm an East Coast boy at heart. I live in Montreal now, but, lived in Truro for most of my childhood. Truro is in the middle of Nova Scotia. It's about an hour north of Halifax. And for listeners who are familiar with how Nova Scotia is shaped on a map, it has a little arm that comes out of it that connects it to New Brunswick. Truro is right in the armpit. And sometimes I like to call it Truro, the armpit of Nova Scotia. But I don't know how the Truronians listening to this will feel about that. When it comes to the vibe of Truro, I did both some thinking about this personally, and I also surveyed my community.
Ooh.
So my personal vibe check of Truro is that Truro is a town that punches above its weight. And that applies to both the good and the bad.
Okay.
So, are Truronians friendly? Yes. Are there some weirdos? Absolutely. Does Truro have an arts and culture scene? Yes. Do many of the artists end up leaving for bigger cities? Absolutely. Is Truro progressive compared to many small towns? Yes. Was the mayor of Truro, until very recently, a homophobe who refused to fly the pride flag, citing reasons that were somehow linked to pedophilia? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So Truro, it punches above its weight. It's a heavy hitter, but that applies to both the good and the bad.
This is very enlightening. So is this all from your perspective or also from your survey analysis?
That's all from my perspective. I have some quotes here from a survey that I ran through the Angus Reid Institute, aka my Instagram account. The first quote is, conservative senior citizen meets trendy activist with a side of rural farm life. And that is my favorite one. That hits the nail right on the head for me. We've also got surprisingly liberal for a conservative small town. That rings true. Mm-hmm. Feels like the city to rural folk and rural to the city folk. Absolutely. That is true. There's a skeety side, also a quaint side. Great place to grow up, but by no means idyllic.
Okay, these are all amazing quotes. And the more that I think about it, is it too far to say that like the embodiment of Truro would be a white woman?
like a kind of waspy white woman who really loves her wine, maybe the occasional IPA, and like really does her homework to keep up with progressive politics, but still like always gets someone's pronouns wrong.
Yeah. Or like has her bachelorette party at a drag show, but then like interrupts the drag show and that's the vibe that I'm catching.
And like tips really well, like tips the drag queens great, but really disrupts the experience.
Also like touches them a lot, which like they don't want.
Yes. Like, they're like, please stop touching me.
Thanks for the tip, but don't touch my fake boobs anymore. I'm had enough.
Oh, God.
This is great. I loved it. What a great way to kick off this episode. I have my little mini tourism board spiel that I'm going to throw at you. Truro, Nova Scotia. Also known as the hub of Nova Scotia, it was established in 1875, and the town motto is, begun in faith, continued in determination. Very white lady.
Incredible. Yeah, I love that.
Truro and the surrounding area have long been home to the Mi'kmaq people and is part of the Peace and Friendship Treaty, which was established in 1779. And in, fun fact, 2021, Mi'kmaq was officially proclaimed as Nova Scotia's first language, which is really cool.
Oh, hell yeah.
Today, the population of Truro is somewhere around 13,000 people, and it's a place once considered as a bustling East Coast metropolis. It's known for its beautiful Victoria Park, its 90s tree sculptures, and fun fact, Truro once housed 6 panels of the Berlin Wall, but they've all moved to Dalhousie now. So, Dane, what am I missing?
Well, you've really nailed a surface level summary of Truro. And so I commend your research skills, Katie.
Thank you.
I'll add a few things that come up for me based on that description. First, the population of Truro, it probably is truly 13,000, but that would be the town of Truro itself. And most people who say they're from Truro are not actually from Truro.
Okay.
So I am one of those people. I am technically from Truro Heights.
Okay, elaborate. What is this? Is this just Truro surrounding area?
So Truro is kind of at the center of a valley. And then if you drive up a hill, that's Truro Heights.
So let's talk about Truro being the, quote, hub of Nova Scotia. Dane, what is your understanding of why this is the case?
I think there are two reasons for that. One is that Truro does have a train station. And so like trains constantly pass through Truro. You can take the Via Rail from Montreal to Truro. Somehow it takes 24 hours. I don't really understand
I have taken this train.
Yeah, it's a bit of a brutal one unless you go to the bar cart. But otherwise, Truro, because it's located in the middle of the province, if any of our listeners have ever driven through Nova Scotia, driven to or from Halifax, it's very likely that you've driven through Truro. It's at the intersection of the major highways, so you kind of have to pass through it. And I think we used to have a highway exit sign that said Truro, a natural stopping place. I might be making that up because you would just stop. You'd stop there and you'd fill up your gas, you go to the Tim Hortons, get your little snack, and you get back on the road.
That makes sense. Okay, you were right on the money with the train stuff. So it's the hub of Nova Scotia essentially because it's located at the junction of the Canadian National Railway running between Halifax and Montreal, as you mentioned. But then also there's another train railway that's running between Cape Breton and central Nova Scotia. And so the two sort of make an X, and that is in Truro.
Come and celebrate our train intersection.
Yes. So the Truro used to be a small farming community, but then with the construction of the first railway, it just exploded into a municipality and saw a ton of growth in 1858. And that intensified when the other railway was built. And the railways just attracted a ton of different industries to come settle in. That included the woolen mills, which then became Stanfields, a teacher's college, and an agricultural college. And from what I gather, Truro has always kind of remained a bustling little ecosystem, I'll call it. A hub, if you will. And it's interesting because there's a lot of 50s and 60s, 1950s, 1960s vibes and history around it, which also, I don't know, makes me think of white ladies. I don't know what it is. But I found a quote from a Canadian kids author. Her name is Jan L. Coates, and she wrote about growing up in Truro in the 60s. And this is what she wrote in her blog. She called Truro's core a metropolis in the 60s and described the downtown having department stores, lunch counters, all these places, the kind of thing where you can imagine a kid in the 60s going with their parents downtown to all the places where everybody knows each other, all the businesses know each other and support each other. She said, quote, "In those days, the main street of Truro was the beating heart of the town. The same families owned the same shops for decades. It was all so familiar, but exciting at the same time since we didn't consume stuff so ferociously back then as we do today."
That does resonate with me. It does have, Truro still has a bustling downtown core. There's there's kind of two streets full of little local shops that you can go and walk along and get your little lunch at the nook and cranny, and then go shopping on Inglis Street and dip into all the local handicraft shops. It's very cute. It still has that vibe.
So I found some great commentary about Truro from a subreddit about dating.
Hell yeah.
I want you to guess what the headline of this subreddit is.
How to date a farmer. Farm dating.
It is. This is the title. Dating in Truro sucks. Just wanted to see if that resonated. Here are some comments. Quote, what happens in this town is that 95% of the women are a single mom of 2. Men leave to work, and a lot of women get pregnant and stay near family. Truro isn't called a retirement community for nothing.
Oh, I don't think that's fair.
What's up with the heteronormativity?
That was written by a man. Like, I'm sorry. Like, come
Truro
on.
really seems to be rooted in heteronormativity is what I'm noticing. But this is just like some of the comments.
It has been rooted in heteronormativity. And I think that just to come back to one of the quotes that I got through my very official survey, it's conservative senior citizen meets trendy activist. So in the last 10, 15 years, things have really shifted in the town. And there's this wave of progressive politics that are underpinning everything. Truro has like a pride committee and a pride parade now. So there is this pushback, but I think at its foundation and generationally, it does still have this conservative core.
Another big issue that came up in when it comes to Truro is that there's like a lack of public transit. Here's a quote: The lack of public transit is frustrating, but if you're able to rent downtown, it isn't that big of a deal because there's quite a bit of walking to do and things that are within walking distance downtown. My only gripe is that things get quiet here pretty early, especially in the winter. I'm terrified of going out for drinks because I've had problems trying to get a cab home. So, Dane, my question to you is, when was the last time you were stranded during a night out in Truro? Any stories to share?
Well, even to this day, I am 33 years old, and I will go home for Christmas each year, and me and my brother and maybe some friends will go to the Engine Room, which is a bar located right next to the train station. It's like the train engine room.
Yep.
Incredible. And we will have to arrange with my parents to come just like we were 17 at a house party. I'll text my dad at 2 a.m. and say, Dad, I need you to come get me downtown, because the prospect of calling a cab, it could take forever. I think the company is called Truro Taxi, and in my experience, they're notoriously unreliable, but I will say I typically am only ordering a cab on the busiest days of the year. So maybe that's an unfair characterization.
I mean, it's similar in Brantford, here where I live. The Ubers kind of exist. And it's Brantford is a fairly bustling little town. You'd expect there to be cabs, but I swear there's only we have a Brantford cab company, but I swear there's only 3 cars that are a part of this company. And they whiz through stop signs. They don't give a heck. They just ripping through town. Ripping.
Yeah, I'm not here for that. But it's unreasonable to get around by any other means other than car in Truro. You could bike downtown from Truro Heights, but then you have to bike up this long hill. So everyone that I know in Truro has at least one car, and most families will have multiple cars because you need them to get around. I
could just listen to you say the word car over and over again. I'm hearing your East Coast is coming out for sure.
I think it's usually gone, but maybe I'm thinking so much about Truro that subconsciously
the car is coming out.
It's really coming back here.
Okay, one last comment on the vibe, which I think really embodies the punching above its weight commentary that you made off the top. Quote, at first I wasn't too fond of the local culture. It's a mix of retirees, cliquey middle-class townies, and new residents like me. They've all pissed me off from time to time, but I've met a handful of decent people here. I now view it as a scavenger hunt to find compatible associates.
I think that's perfectly accurate. I think you can find sort of one of whatever you want in Truro. You might not be able to find in Montreal. You can find 20 different restaurants or 20 different dance troupes. In Truro, you should be able to find one of those things.
Great.
But it's impressive. Like they just, my niece was just in a production of The Nutcracker that Truro does every year. The Truro Dance Academy puts it on every year. This production, a full like ballet every year. The high school does a musical every year. You know, they've got the Marigold Cultural Center where bands will come through and play. They have the exhibition where you can go watch people wrangle sheep in front of you. They've always got things going on, but you just might not have the variety of choice that you have in a big city.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm excited to talk to you about arts and culture in Truro. And I think it's time we talk about the Truro Tree Sculptures.
Please.
What can you share about like what they are? And I'll get into the history of them, but I want you to just describe what the heck they are.
Okay, so they, as far as I understand, they're all rotted and gone now. But when I was a kid in the 90s, these tree sculptures began appearing. So they would cut down a tree from like 12 feet tall, and they would take all the bark off of it, and then they would just shape it into this weird sculpture of a random person who had some sort of important significance to the town or to like history, or sometimes I think they were like fictional characters, just like a weird smorgasbord of different characters. And Truro became known as, I think it was known as the tree sculpture capital of the world, or
You are
there was like
correct.
a highway sign that we drove by like every day. So this was hammered into us. But then the trees were not stable, so they all started rotting. So you had these like important historical figures whose like the ear would rot off of the statue, or like their nose would rot off. And so this like crown jewel of Truro, this only lasted for like 2 or 3 years before they started falling apart. And I asked my dad about this because he is a forester. He worked for the Department of Natural Resources.
Love this.
So I don't want to scoop you here, Katie, but I'm going to. He told
he's
me
the guy to talk to about this.
He said that it was all because of beetles and fungus, as so many things are. I hate beetles and I hate fungus. He said they had to cut down elm trees about 20 years ago because they were all killed by Dutch elm disease, which is a fungus carried into the tree by a bark beetle. Both the fungus and the bark beetle were invasive species imported from Asia into Europe and America. And Dutch elm has killed 70 million trees in America, and he says it's still a problem. But the way Truro decided to deal with this was to cut the elm down and turn them into tree sculptures that then rotted a few years later.
Yes, this was such a perfect summary of all of this. So they cut down 275 trees due to this disease. And foresters at the time, who could have been your dad, said they were seeing 4 times the normal amount of losses than they normally see every year from this. So
that sounds like my dad.
This was a huge thing in 1999. So you were there already. You were already in Truro.
I was 8 years old.
Yeah. 1999 is when like all of this went down. So Truro and the surrounding area is seeing like the worst ever damage done by Dutch elm disease. And like, do you remember this happening? So when I ask you this, because when I was 8, I had a neighbor who lived across the street from me who had a beautiful birch tree, and they cut it down because it must have been dying or something. And this was after school. I'm home watching people cut down this tree. I'm crying. I don't know why. I was a sensitive kid. But do you remember the trees coming down?
I don't remember the trees coming down so much as I remember the sculptures
Showing
up. Because you would every couple weeks there would just be a new sculpture, and so it was kind of like an activity in my family, and I assume among many Truro residents, to go hunt down the new sculptures. It would be like, have you seen the sculpture of this guy or this woman or this fictional character? And you'd go look at the new sculpture and take it in and be impressed by the artwork.
Love this. Yes. So to make the most of a bad situation, the town decides to carve about 43 of these dead trees into sculptures. And as you mentioned, they trim all the branches, all the bark away, and turn them into depictions of like local icons or historical moments from the area, or like you said, like fictional characters.
I love
A
it.
lot of people have said that the Truro tree sculpture artists seemingly couldn't help but make their sculptures sexual. I saw a comment on Reddit that said there were multiple revisions done to a statue of a police chief and his dog, where the dog was originally depicted humping his leg. And then eventually it was changed into a dog just like sort of sitting beside said legs. But everybody called this sculpture Old Humper.
Well, bear in mind, I was 8 at this time, so
You
I
wouldn't have
think
seen
maybe
these
the
things.
sexual element of the tree sculptures went right over my head. But it does sound very true. You know, go hard, make the tree sculptures sexual.
Yeah. I saw some photos of tree sculptures that were like depictions of lumberjacks, of a bear holding some hockey sticks, like all
I
over
remember
the place.
the bear holding the hockey sticks. Yeah.
Did you have any particular favorites?
I struggle so much to remember specific examples now. I just remember the horror of like 2 or 3 years later when they started decaying in front of you. And I think like maybe as a kid I was like, wait, we all die at some point. Like the tree sculptures just hit home about like our mortality in Truro. Every Truronian was like confronted with the idea that all of our bodies are decaying, and what are we if not like elm trees that are infected with a deadly fungus?
We too will be these shreds of wood on the ground, just dirt one day.
We will follow the path of Old Humper.
So these are dead trees that are so they're already dead to begin with. So every resident is just witnessing these trees just die more, basically.
Yes.
Just get more dead. So they place these sculptures all over town, and for about a decade, they are like the local landmark of Truro. Truro establishes a Truro Tree Committee, whose chairman calls the town the tree sculpture capital, arguably of Canada, certainly Nova Scotia. I don't know if there's tree sculptures anywhere else in Canada other than like, I don't know if I would consider totem poles in the same, like those are completely different things.
I would say that's a different thing.
Yeah. And these sculptures attract a lot of press for the town and inspire some spin-off projects across North America. And like, I love the idea. I think it's fun getting some like artwork all around town. But of course, because we can't have nice things, the Truro tree sculptures are ultimately like ruthlessly vandalized. The hands are broken off of a statue of Vera Kleik, who was a well-known leader in Truro's Black community. And she died in 1998. And the town was about to fix the hands until somebody broke the head off too. And like shit like that just like kept happening over the years. And as things are getting vandalized, the trees, as you mentioned, are just absolutely deteriorating. I looked up the Truro tree sculptures on TripAdvisor because it was like recommended as a thing to do in Truro was check out the tree sculptures. It's still there. And so the reviews follow this deterioration arc, especially over the last few years. So I'm going to read a couple for you. August 2013, 5 stars. Fun street art. I read about these tree sculptures and seeing them in person was really quite special. They appear randomly throughout the town, so you never know what you're going to get, and then you suddenly spot one, and you'll find yourself instantly smiling and saying, wow, or hey, look at that one. So that's 2013,
Yeah,
5
lovely.
stars.
Good times. Everyone's happy.
Everybody's happy. 3 years later, August 2016, still 5 stars. Sculptures are beautiful. I live here in Truro and admire the sculptures often. We see them daily and are proud to have them in our town.
That sounds like the head of the tree committee.
It probably was. 2 years later, 1 star. Title
2
is
years?
2 years later, 1 star. The title is Gone. The sculptures that remained had to be cut down earlier this year. They had rotted to the point of being dangerous. And then another year later, somebody confirms this, another 1 star saying, yep, they're gone. According to the local, the sculptures were sculptures located all over town were all rotted and cut down. A local didn't know of any existing to send us to. Do not suggest wasting your time on this one. So yeah, the tree sculptures are rotted.
That's fair, but I just want to say to anyone giving a 1-star review to the rotting tree sculptures, just keep in mind that the tree sculptures are a metaphor for you.
Okay, I have one quick story about one particular tree sculpture.
Please.
So officially in 2018, the last Truro tree sculptures are cut down. City officials say due to decay, they are closer to being soil on the inside than actual wood. And that one lumberjack statue in particular, apparently 2 ladies were in a salon in the area. They're just talking. They look outside. They just happen to glance over at the lumberjack statue and just witness this head just pop off, roll onto the ground, and shatter into like a bunch of splinters into like nothingness.
Oh, no.
So, Dane, is it time for Truro's next generation of tree sculptures? Because the TripAdvisor page is still at 3.5 stars out of 5.
Oh, and they already have an existing brand. So I say leverage that brand and monetize, baby, monetize. I do think Truro should revive this. I think they should, make new statues of Truro icons and of TikTok stars.
Love this. What would you carve a Truro tree statue into?
What would I carve? I think that I would try to carve a tree statue. Here are a couple. I would try to carve one to represent the tidal boar. Have you encountered the tidal boar in your research?
No.
Okay.
Please.
I've got
explain.
a lot of tidal boar related lore for you.
Okay.
Truro is located right at the end of the Bay of Fundy. The Bay of Fundy has the highest tides in the world. So what happens when the tide comes in to Truro is the tide is so high that the rivers all reverse direction. And the water flows in the opposite direction. So I would love to see a water-themed tree sculpture to honor the tidal boar. I would love to see, related to sculptures, a tree sculpture honoring the giant Glooscap statue that's in the Millbrook Reservation, which is just neighboring to Truro, very close to where I grew up. There was a Truro fiasco that took place in the early 2000s when I was in junior high, where they put up this statue of Glooscap, from Mi'kmaq tradition. And it was positioned towards the highway in such a way that it looked like the staff that he was holding was, in fact, a different appendage, not a staff.
Yeah.
It was a something else.
So they had to turn him around.
So they put all this money into him, and then they unveiled it, and then they had to shut it down for like 2 weeks and reposition the staff in a way that the angle didn't make it look like that anymore. So I would love to see a tree sculpture honoring the original version, because I think we know the sculptor loves to integrate, themes of sexuality into his work. So I think he'd be happy about that too.
Oh, that's an excellent recommendation. And yes, I did see this sculpture, and it's at like a cultural center that you can go visit, right? It's sort of just outside of Truro, and you can go see all this really amazing information and exhibits about Mi'kmaq heritage in the area and all that stuff. It looked really cool. And it's a huge statue too, right? It's
a big statue. Probably, I don't know how to do feet, but 60 feet, I would guess. I don't know.
We don't do feet in Canada, Dane.
Well, 2 meters? 60 feet, 2 meters? Is that right?
It's definitely bigger than 2 meters.
How tall am I, Katie? How tall am I?
I think you are almost 2 meters.
No one has ever called me tall before, and I appreciate that. I don't think it's true, but I appreciate it.
Okay, Dane. What was
Katie,
it like growing up as a queer kid in Truro?
Did you just out me to your audience?
I think you've outed yourself on the internet numerous times at this point.
The lilt of my voice outed me within the first 20 seconds.
I think also just like a lot of the projects you're involved in.
Yes. I'm working on a cabaret / podcast show right now about AIDS history, but I've been putting it together with 2 of my friends from Truro. We grew up together, who both of them are named Andrew, and they both live in New York now. One is a pianist, one is a singer. And so while we've been working on this show, we have been talking about our experiences growing up and actually integrating a little bit of that into the show. So this is something that I've thought a lot about recently. And it was challenging for sure. 20 years ago, when I realized that I was gay, Truro was much less progressive than it is now. The historical event that I think defines that period, I referenced briefly in my description of Truro's vibe, but we had a mayor at the time named Bill Mills who refused to fly the pride flag. I think this was in 2007, 2006. I was in high school, and he did this interview where he said, well, if we fly the pride flag, we're condoning that community. And what are we going to do next? You know, what if a pedophile wants to fly a flag? Are we going to condone that community as well? And just made the like classic equation of pedophilia and homophobia. And it was so upsetting to me at the time. It made me want to leave, which I did shortly thereafter. I made a plan as soon as I turned 18, I was going to get out of the town. In speaking with the two guys who I'm doing this show with, one of them described, just feeling like he was pushed deeper in the closet, wasn't able to really come out and express himself. Another one, the other guy in the show, he said that this experience, it really made him feel disconnected from Truro. So it's not just a matter of leaving the town, but it's once you're gone from the town, you don't have that pull to come back. You don't have that respect for the place that you're from because you never felt like you truly belonged there. And I do want to impress upon listeners that Truro has come a really long way, and there's a lot of progress that's been made. And I think it's a much more accepting and celebratory place for queer people. But it was really hard in the early 2000s. And yeah, it's one of the reasons that I can't tell you that much about it, because I can't cite all these facts because I left as soon as I turned 18 and I truly haven't looked back.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's really, really enlightening. I think it's a great depiction of like just how a town can be changed and how a town can have a huge impact on growing up. I want to use your trauma for fun.
Please.
Shall we?
That's what queer people do best, I think.
So, thinking about being bullied as a queer kid, what do you think would have helped reduce bullying when you were a child?
If they legalized weed 20 years earlier. What would have helped reduce bullying when I was a child? I mean, I think it's all of these little organizations, little community groups, visibility in the community. It comes from, especially when you're a kid, it comes from adults who've created these spaces, whether it's at schools. And we did have a GSA, a Gay Straight Alliance, when I was in high school. That was really nice. I did attend that a few times. It made me feel much, much better, much safer. But it's really having the adults in all spheres of your life really stand up and just make it clear that it's okay for you to feel. For you to be attracted to whichever gender or identify with whatever gender you do. And that's what I'm seeing more in Truro these days with the Pride group and different folks who I went to high school with who are now parents, who I just know that they are incredible parents who are creating this really positive atmosphere, both for their kids and for the larger community.
It's a great segue, because this is something that is happening in Truro lately, is that there are a lot of really wonderful adults putting together some really great campaigns to make the entire town feel really welcoming. On that note, I want you to describe this is where I incorporate visuals, Dane. Are you ready?
I love visuals.
I would love for you to explain what you're seeing on the screen.
Okay, right now on the screen, I am seeing, it looks like we're in a theater, an auditorium of some sort, looking at the stage. The entire room is dark except for a colorful projection, kind of futuristic colorful projection on a white wall. And standing at the center of that projection on the stage is what appears to be a futuristic robot. It's giving me... What are those things called in Star Wars that wear the white things?
Stormtroopers?
It's kind of giving me Stormtrooper vibes, right? Like it's like this white masked android looking thing.
Okay, great description. How about this?
Oh, Oh, now I can. Okay, so I'm seeing the same stormtrooper-like creature. He is now. I just gendered him. I don't know why he has really broad shoulders, so I think I'm just calling him a man now. He's in some sort of classroom. He's now pointing to like a projected presentation. And now I can now read on his chest. It says in big block letters, police. So he is a police robot. He looks like he's a police robot.
He's a police robot. On the screen that he's pointing to, it says, Rule 1, do not bully people. And there's sort of like some vague images of somebody sitting in front of a computer screen. This is CyberCop. CyberCop is he was launched in 2011. He was launched to the public by the Truro Police as sort of a mascot for internet safety and anti-bullying. And here's the caption for that image that I first showed you. CyberCop, the robot, blazed onto the stage at CEC's AV room in a show of lights and rock music, teaching internet safety tips and delivering an anti-bullying message. He was described in the article as CyberCop, or just Cyber for short, and he is described as a he. And he's like a transformer-like robot that stands over 6 feet tall. He was first introduced to kids at Truro Elementary, and he's there sharing a PowerPoint presentation developed by the Nova Scotia Community College and Truro Police. It covers cyberbullying, using the internet safely, chatting, emailing, and surfing. And at first, I thought this was a real robot that they made, like Elon Musk style, like a real robot. And from what I believe, a lot of locals did too. Because there was there was a bunch of chatter from people being like, "What a waste of tax dollars!" But it's really just a man in a RoboCop costume.
It's like a mascot.
Yeah, it's a mascot. What do you think of this idea? Is Truro ahead of its time in 2011, launching the CyberCop anti-bullying mascot?
Well, I think we all know that the proper intervention to solve any social issue is to increase police funding. Give the police more money. They always solve these very complex issues that usually have structural roots. Threaten people with a police robot that it's unclear if it's a true robot that can hurt you for violating the law, or just a man in a costume. I think that's a great way. I think the money could have been spent in better ways, Katie, if you can't tell. But also, I don't know, maybe you do have to make a thing that seems cool for young people. I'm sure that my nephews would love a police robot. I'm sure that they would love a police robot. They don't understand structural racism. They don't understand the issues with institutionalized policing. But they would love police robot. And there were some big issues with cyberbullying in Nova Scotia. In Truro, we had an MLA, Lenore Zan, who I don't think she's still serving as the MLA, who also led a cyberbullying campaign for a while. So it makes sense to complement that. But I'm always a little skeptical of police as the solution to issues.
I'm totally with you there. The fact that it's also, it's like combined with like an AV light show, rock music, and a PowerPoint presentation on bullying. It's just a lot.
Presentation with like what looks like 2005 word clip art. Like they really spent all the design budget on the robot costume and zero of it on the presentation.
Yeah. So in 2011, Truro Police are stoked about CyberCop. They call Cyber a mentor and role model.
Wait, his first name is Cyber, last name Cop?
They just call him Cyber for short, basically. But he's CyberCop, but you just call him Cyber. Almost every year they revamp this PowerPoint presentation and actually hear back from educators that it's making a difference and bringing a serious message in a fun way. And Cyber basically becomes like a hometown hero from 2011 to 2019. I believe he was retired during the pandemic, but in 2016, he's involved in a number of initiatives for Mental Health Awareness Week. He walks in the 2017 Pride Parade, And in 2019, he's a part of a town-wide rally against racism. And kids are like flocking to him and absolutely stoked to like take pictures and just tell their parents about these like anti-bullying assemblies. Sadly, it's hard to say if Cybercop is actually retired for good. I found some Facebook posts from Truro Police mentioning cyber and like cyber awareness stuff since the pandemic. I found a mention of him in May of 2014 or 2024, but no pictures. What would you say a revamped version of Cybercop should be covering for Truro's kids in 2025?
Oh my God, you're asking me to solve big
World peace.
social problems?
Yeah.
I think a revamped Cybercop should just get the kids off of Instagram. Instagram is indoctrinating our children. It's making them hate their bodies. It's wasting their time. It's addicting them to dopamine. Get Cybercop out of the streets and into their phones and deleting those apps.
Delete TikTok. It's good for your mental health.
It really, the weeks when I have Instagram or TikTok on my phone and the weeks when I don't, the like difference in productivity and happiness is like striking. No, obviously bullying's still a big problem in Truro, and I don't know how to solve it from an internet standpoint or from a cybercop standpoint. I will say I read a wonderful book this year by a local Truro author, Leo McKay Jr., called What Comes Echoing Back. And he is an English teacher at the high school in Truro and also like a published author. And so he wrote this book that's about a couple of teenage girls navigating their puberty and the challenges of living in a town. And one of them befriends this sort of forlorn musician who's had these challenges happen to him. And I think that everyone should read that book if you're in Truro or outside of Truro too. It was a really great picture of the life of adolescents in the town.
I feel like it has to be so aligned with so many towns across Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Truro honestly really reminds me of where I grew up in Milton, where it was small town vibes, but pretty bustling. We had like a pretty notable main street that there was all these cute little shops and restaurants. And it was, I don't know, I just get the same sort of vibes where when I was growing up, queerness was not super talked about. We did have like a LGBTQ group, but as far as I knew, like in my high school, there was like, I don't know, maybe 3 people in it.
It's scary to join that when not a lot of people are in it because people just assume if you go to a meeting that you're gay, which like you don't.
Yeah, and you kind of you're outing yourself once you attend, right? So that's a even trickier thing to come to terms with when like everybody that you don't know any queer people in town. Like I only really met a lot of queer people once I moved to Toronto and then kind of explored my own queerness that way where I was like, oh yeah, this is like a thing. This is a thing.
Yeah, I did musicals in high school, Katie. So
I was in the pit band.
Yeah, I knew a lot of queer people, just none of us were out. But I think pretty much 100% of the people in our high school musicals are now openly gay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, Dane, you have brought a story for me about your hometown. I don't know if it's real, if you heard it through the grapevine, if your dad just told it to you, or if you completely made it up. I'm going to guess at the end, and then we'll go from there. So please, spill your hometown tea.
Well, Katie, I broke the rules for this segment of the podcast. I've brought you 3 stories.
Oh, good.
One of them is a lie. 2 of them are true.
Are we doing 2 truths and a lie?
We're doing 2 truths and a lie. And all are tied to very real Truro lore.
Okay, I'm ready.
So I'm going to start off. We talked about the tidal bore, so I think I'll start off with my tidal bore related story.
Okay.
Which this happened to me when I was 11 years old. And our family took just a little trip to Parsborough, which is not far from Truro, just a short drive. And Parsborough is on the Bay of Fundy. And when the tide goes out, you get these like very, very long extended mud flats where you can go out and you sink up to your knees, up to your thighs in this like very sticky mud. And it's so much fun as a kid. You just go out and you just get absolutely covered in mud while the tide is out. So one day I was with my family, and me and my brother, I have a twin brother, we like left the cottage and we went out onto the mud flats. And we kept going deeper and deeper. We were like absolutely covered in mud. But at one point, we both stepped into the mud and it like squelched down really deep, like right up to our waists. And we both got completely stuck in the mud. And then the tide started coming in.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because this was only low tide. So as the tide started coming in, we were freaking out. The water started like pooling around us and started coming up.
Wait, how fast does the tide come in?
Well, the tide was presumably already coming in when we were out there playing.
Okay.
Like, we went out thinking it was low tide. The tide was coming in.
Oh, so you were fucking around and finding
mistake.
out. Okay.
Yeah, this is things you learn as a maritimer. So, I mean, the water didn't come in a huge amount before our father came out freaking out looking for us, wondering if if this exact situation had happened.
Just off in the distance, like, ah.
Yeah. And thankfully he could see us out there because it's just, big mud flats. So he came out, he had to like wrestle us out of the mud, pull us back in and get us back to shore. And after that, we were only allowed to play on those mud flats with supervision for the rest of that little family vacation.
Reasonable.
So that's our story number 1.
Okay.
The death in the Truro mud flats.
Nice.
Our second story opens in a car. Okay. I am with my best friends, and we are driving rapidly down a hill on what's called Wood Street in Nova Scotia, just next to Victoria Park.
How old are you?
We are 16, 17, somewhere in that vicinity. And we are driving quickly because another car is chasing us. And we are followed by this car as we like zip through, speeding through the stop signs all across town. We drive from Wood Street through the center of Truro. This car is still it's tailing us. It's trying to catch us. We drive into Bible Hill and we have to like take a sharp turn into the agricultural college and then go hide in a parking lot until we see that car has gone and it can't find us. And then we can go home or we probably went and got McDonald's after that. And the reason behind this story is that when we were in high school, there was a rumor that people would go gay cruising at the top of Wood Street. There's like a forested area. And so cars would go up there and you'd like wait and like try to see another person catch their eye. And then you would go, hook up with that person. Mm-hmm. So as soon as that rumor hit the high school, everyone in high school, all of these kids, like the activity that you would do is like go up to the top of Wood Street and like try to catch the gay people cruising.
Oh my God.
And like I was in a car with gay, like we were all gay. We were all closeted gay people. Like we were clearly doing it because we like wanted proximity to this identity that we didn't yet feel comfortable voicing. But that I have to assume now as like an adult gay man, if I ever was like doing any sort of cruising and realized that like my cruising spot had been co-opted by high school students, I would go somewhere else immediately. Yeah. So I assume for the like year that we did this, it was like for a year, this was like the thing to do. Oh every car.
You did this for a year and no signs, like...
No, because you couldn't see into the other people's cars. They would like flash their headlights at you. You would flash, and so it's just like a bunch of high school students all like up there freaking each other out, making them think that like you're gay men who are up there cruising, which was the most salacious thing I could think of when I was 16, 17 years old. And it all culminated in that car chase across town, which was
who was chasing you?
We don't know. What's realistic?
How did you know to run away?
We just drove. This car probably flicked their lights at us and then started revving the engine. I think it was just it was probably like a group of like high school bros or something, just trying to, because that's, again, like if I'm as an adult gay man out cruising, like what I'm not going to do is rev my engine and then like chase a bunch of high school students in a car. That's crazy. But if I was a 16-year-old high school bro, I think that is exactly what I would do.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. And I bet you by the end of that year, like there are no gay men going cruising there anymore. They're like, there's too many freaking high school students here chasing us off.
Yeah, I bet they just found another like behind the curling club or something. Like, there's many places you can cruise.
Yes. Okay, that is hilarious. One day we'll find the culprit of who chased you down the road. Or we'll never know.
Unless that was the lie, in which case you can't because they're not real.
That's true.
Our third option here. Oh, the third option is what I call the legend of the high school musical cast party.
Love.
So when
I'm so ready for this.
was in junior
let me
high-
just say,
Yeah.
theater kids, they know how to party.
They know
and they
how to
party
party.
hard.
They party so hard.
So hard.
I started hearing about this when I was in junior high, when I was like in grade 7, grade 8, started hearing rumors of the High School Musical cast party. And it was supposed to be the most epic party of the year. Like legend had it that it was even bigger than like the football team's like end of season party. It was just supposed to be this huge epic party. And when I was in grade 10, my first year of high school, I, along with another person who will remain unnamed, we planned the cast party. And we first we had to find a venue where like I was like 16 meeting with these like business owners of like different like rinks and like hockey clubs because that was the only place you could theoretically do it, or like in a field somewhere.
Yep.
And like we kind of had to like suggest what was going to happen so that they knew what was going to happen, but you could never say it explicitly. And eventually we found someone, an adult. This blows my mind now. An adult who was like, yeah, absolutely, we'll do this. All done through cash. We like paid them cash, just like a big wad of like, I don't know, $800. How did I get that as a 16-year-old? Don't know. And after the musical ended, everybody came out to this rink, the name of which will remain undisclosed. Everyone had tents. Like all of these kids like came into the like rink. You all set up your tents. You had like your
inside
Malibu,
the rink?
Inside the rink. Well, because this was in April or May, so the rink there was no ice. It was just like a big empty concrete place. We had like music blaring, like Mike's Hard Lemonades abound.
That's the drink of choice too. Early 2000s.
Yeah,
give me the Mike's Hard Lemonades.
I know.
Yes.
I think I could stomach one.
And
Mike's
the
Hard
Woodies,
lemonade.
the Woodies like limeade ones too. Oh,
yeah. I just want things that are like, or then I wanted things that were chock full with sugar. And at one point during this party, the police show up at the door. But of course, there are like 8 theater kids who are sober, who are like goody two shoes, who wanted to come but didn't want to drink. So we shut off the music. All of the drunk people are like in the next room, like 100 people just like wasted, reeking of alcohol. And the police show up, and these 8 theater students like take it upon themselves to put on like the best production that's ever happened. Like pull out a Twister board. They're like playing Twister, holding themselves up, like being like, look at how like these complex positions we can be in because we're clearly sober. And they succeeded at talking the police out of this party. They got the police to leave without coming in and looking around. And we had an excellent night. We charged people, I think, like $15-20. Me and my friend ended up making like $400. It was great.
Were you allowed to advertise the party at school?
No, it was all word of mouth.
That third story, 100% true. Has to be true.
We'll see. Is that your final answer?
Yeah, my final answer, here's what I think.
Yeah.
I think the party story is true. I think that the mud story is fake.
Katie.
And I think it's based off of you definitely played in the mud, you definitely got stuck, but you added the tide part coming in.
Oh my God. You just read me to filth. You're exactly right.
It's not
That's
my
exactly
first
what
rodeo.
happened.
Not
I
my
went into
first
too much
rodeo.
detail. I felt too much real emotion when I was telling the other stories.
Yes. That was also the giveaway.
I should have put it in the middle so I could have matched it.
Dane, thank you so much for joining me on Canardian. How can people support you, find you, all these things?
Well, Katie, thank you so much for having me. People who are interested in checking out my work, the best thing you can do is go listen to my podcast, Resurrection. It's available on all the podcast apps. We've got 2 seasons out now. By the time you're listening to this, we'll probably be close to releasing our 3rd season. The whole show is about the untold stories or little known histories of people whose lives were impacted by HIV and AIDS. So check that out, and from there you can find out all the other cool stuff we're up to.
Wonderful. And I'm Katie Lohr. You can find me through all the show notes, all the links in the show notes, and I'll include Dane's links there too. You can subscribe to my newsletter, Pod the North, at podthenorth.com.
And you should subscribe to Pod the North.
Aw,
it's
thank
amazing.
you. Yeah, I actually did a really wonderful interview with Dane about grant fundraising for podcasts, and it's a really, really, really good article, just like in full
get paid,
deep
podcasters.
dives into podcasting. Dane gave me so much like amazing information about just how to get money for your podcast. So if that's something you're interested in, give it a read. And thank you, Dane, for the plug. The Canardian theme song is by my very talented partner, Mark Allen, with support from his own hometown buddies, people like us. And if you like this podcast or you know someone from Truro, please share this podcast with that person or somewhere on your Instagram stories, or not on Instagram. You can even send an email, because Dane and I don't approve of Instagram anymore.
Yeah, and definitely no TikToks.
No TikTok. Just send a friend an email with the link to this podcast, and we'll be good to go. We'll have fully supported the show. Okay, see you around town.